All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I'd like to take a moment just to begin our evening's event. If we haven't met before, my name is John Dauber, and I'm the principal at High School North. It is a great pleasure to be with all of you tonight. I will admit it's a little bit different because the first question that I usually ask our parents, we have about 259 on the call this evening, is how many, with a show of hands, how many people is this your first go around at High School North? And typically every hand in the audience goes up. So I'm going to presume that that is just about the case this evening with almost 260 new parents on the call as well. So, we welcome you to this. We understand as new parents, or many of you being new parents, but obviously not all of you, to High School North. High school is a new experience, not only for your children, but also for many of you as parents. And that quite honestly can be a daunting task, even perhaps using the word intimidating to some extent or another. But I can assure you that the next 4 years will be very good ones. The next 4 years will be full of growth for your children. You are in good hands. All of the people who are going to speak to you this evening throughout our program of studies, whether they be instructional supervisors or they be counselors or anyone else who is attached to our school, they are exceptional people who have the best interest of young people in their hearts and in their minds. And I work with them every day, and as I have done for the last 6 years, and I have complete faith in all of them, so much so to the point where if I had to put my own children, who are younger, although in 3rd grade and 5th grade, I would be very, very confident in putting their futures and their education in the hands of the people who are going to speak with you tonight. So I do want to just give a little bit of advice, which I do typically for rising 9th grade parents, is I would just ask you that, not only tonight, but over the course of this year, and certainly as we transition into 9th grade, is allow yourself and allow your children to stay in the moment of being a 9th grader. It's easy to get lost in the totality of what high school is and even the consequences of what happens after high school based upon what we do in high school. So I don't want you to lose sight of the fact that transitioning as a 9th grader and as a 9th grade parent is a challenge in and of itself. It's not only the academic side of things as far as the transition, but it's also the social transition, and it's also the emotional transition that exists for all of our children. So please don't get too caught up in the big picture. Right now, allow what the people who are going to speak to you tonight are going to say to you about being in 9th grade. Let that take hold. Enjoy it, enjoy the process, and then recognize that it is a process. It's a 4-year piece, all right? So I can assure you that one way or the other, it will work out very well for your children. I would just say to have faith in your kids, have faith in our school district, and have faith in yourselves, and have a little bit of patience, because it's a joy to be part of High School North. And we look forward to everything that is going to happen, not only tonight, but in the next 4 years for all of you. And, there's plenty that I could say. I could go on for hours and hours. But at this point in time, I'd like to turn it over to our Director of Guidance and Wellness and many, many other things, Dr. Lee McDonald.
Thank you, Dr. Dauber. Well said. Good evening, everyone. Lee McDonald, Director of Counseling, Health, and Wellness. I want to welcome you to our Program of Studies night for our parents at Community Middle School. It's a pleasure to be here and joined by my esteemed colleagues who you'll get to meet in a little bit. We are recording this presentation. We'll make sure it's available on the district YouTube channel. Side note, the district website is down at the moment, but there is a link to all Program of Studies materials. Once the website is back up, it's going to be under Departments, Counseling, High School Counseling, Program of Studies. You'll see a folder there. So if that comes back online tonight, I'll throw it in the chat. If not, it's very accessible once the district website is back up and running. We'll also post a PowerPoint from this evening there as well. There are a number of really good supports and materials in that folder, which we'll go through and highlight this evening. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And then as we go, each one of our supervisors is going to have a chance to come on and talk a little bit about the course offerings in their department. And then toward the latter part of our presentation, we are going to be joined by our phenomenal school counseling staff at High School North. It is National School Counseling Week, so make sure that you thank them if you haven't already. Bravo. They do a fine job just with the transition piece, but more about them a little bit later. I'm going to just share my screen here and hopefully get this right from the tech side. Okay. So again, welcome class of 2025. Can't believe that already. I'm in your shoes, parents. I have a rising ninth grader, so I'm going through this process myself, albeit in another district. But I think that as we go, feel free to reach out and have questions. We have a phenomenal staff that's happy to be here and happy to answer any questions that you have that are not answered tonight. So just a quick tidbit about high school transition. There are a lot of pieces along the way. With regards to the transition piece. Our school counselors met in Zoom breakout rooms yesterday with students from CMS and had the opportunity to not only talk about the program of studies, but talk a little bit about the high school experience. They brought with them peer leaders from the high school who shared peer-to-peer what it's like to be a high school North Knight. In about 3 weeks or so, you'll have the opportunity to your children will have the opportunity to meet with their school counselors one-on-one to go through the scheduling process and actually have conversations with them about their course selections. We will have our orientations in the fall. Of course, we all hope that those are in person, but we'll certainly do what we can to keep people safe at that particular time. We'll also continue to run transition groups in the fall, as we've always done, to build those connections. There's a lot of other events that happen at High School North those first couple of weeks at school as well, whether that's getting engaged with clubs and activities or sports and whatnot, which we're going to highlight this evening as well. So just talking program of studies in terms of the criteria. So when the report cards go live for second marking period, which has now been moved back to next Wednesday, you'll be able to see course semester average for your son or daughter in the Genesis Parent Portal. At that time, that determines the eligibility. Most students at the middle school level from 8th grade are in college prep courses, with the exception of the honors math program. So you can see the criteria here. If you're in that college prep program, is an 80% going in, makes you eligible for an honors class at the high school level. That said, just because you're eligible for all 5 honors classes, for example, doesn't mean that that's the most appropriate placement. It really is a process where you're going to work with your school counselor, talk to your teachers at the middle school level, obviously have conversations about what is some of the goals for next year, balancing that with extracurriculars and whatnot. If you're in an honors course currently, it's a 70% to stay at that same level. These are consistent with what you'll see in the program of studies, where you can find the specific requirements for all courses. So for some reason, your son or daughter doesn't meet that entrance criteria for those courses, there is an eligibility review process. You'll get a link to that. We'll also make sure that that link is posted in that same folder, that program of studies folder that I mentioned. At that point, the department supervisor, teachers, counselors will take a look at other benchmarks, other assessments and whatnot to determine whether that's an appropriate placement for that particular student. Graduation requirements, 120 credits over 4 years. Most of our students, if not all of our students, exceed these credit allotments. You're taking 35 credits a year. That puts you up at the 140 by the time you graduate. That includes the 4 years of language arts, the 3 years of math, 3 years of science, 3 years of social studies, 2.5 credit financial literacy requirement, 4 years of health and physical education, a visual and performing arts credit requirement, 5 credits, 2 years of world language, and then 5 credits of the 21st century life skills. As you go, our counselors will work with your child to make sure that they're meeting those graduation requirements. My advice that first year is to try to take an elective that is going toward one of those requirements. This particular snapshot is another handout that's on the district website in that folder I mentioned. It lists every elective by graduation requirements. So it's a good tool as you kind of look through and start thinking about which electives to take next year. I don't expect anybody to read this. This is another piece of information that's there. The Guide to Appropriate Course Placement. It's another document that just highlights the differences when you're thinking about college prep courses versus honors courses versus advanced placement courses and the different levels of rigor and expectations and whatnot. So when you have those types of questions, it's a good thing to kind of read through and understand generally what those differences are. This is a digital version of our program of studies, if you will. Our supervisors did an amazing job this year with our teachers at the high school level, our counselors and whatnot, putting together a SMORE. You should have received this in email as 8th grade parents. And there's links to every department videos. There's interactive platforms that you can take a look at to kind of brings the program of studies to life. For some reason, you can't find that. We also have that linked in the program of studies folder. So it's a really nice feature to have this year in light of our current circumstances.
Lee, I just posted that in the chat.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Riley. So standard 9th grade program, the language, you think about your 5 core courses rather, as far as language arts, world history, math, science, world language, plus your physical and health education, an elective, a study hall, and a lunch. It's pretty straightforward when it comes to the 9th grade. That being said, we want students to be able to make wise choices and think about that balance. So a nice feature that we have with our Genesis platform is that starting this Friday after 3 p.m., and again, this is not time sensitive in the sense that you have to be on this Friday. It's not a first come, first serve, but sometime in the next 3 to 4 weeks before our counselors go back to the middle school to do individual counseling sessions in March. I think that's the week of March 8th, right about that time. You can go in and plug in. You can see a continuation of your child's current academic program for next year. Those are not course requests until they're not finalized until that individual counselor meeting. But what you are able to do is go in and plug in if your child decides, hey, I want to take a particular elective, for example, they can plug those in. We encourage students to put in a few electives and to fill that form out ahead of time so that they can have that communication tool with the counselor. So when they meet it streamlines that process, and it reminds the students of the courses that they discuss at home that they plan to take. So you can also see that after the counselor meeting. So you'll see those kind of locked in. And if there's changes, we just ask that you make sure that you get those to us by the end of March before we lock in our master schedule numbers. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to our world language supervisor, Ms. Sherry Sizemore.
I unmuted and then remuted myself. Sorry about that. Good evening. I would like to welcome you and your children to High School North. It's a wonderful place. Dr. Dauber is a fabulous principal, and Ms. Sincotta, Ms. O'Brien, the assistant principals that your children will get to know and work with, are really a great crew. And I think your kids are going to have a great 4 years. For world language, the vast majority of incoming ninth graders, will just roll over into the next level course in the same language they've been taking in middle school. So if you had 3 years of French, Chinese, or German, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade at community middle school, then when your child gets to North next year, they will take French 2, Chinese 2, or German 2, depending on which language they're in. For Spanish, the ninth graders go into 3 or 3 honors, and that's because the French, Chinese, and German all just started in 6th grade, whereas in Spanish, some of them started in 2nd grade. So they've had a chance to work up a little bit more of a proficiency level. And so they can go in 3 or 3 honors. They are rolled over automatically into 3. Students are eligible to go into 3 honors if they have a minimum of an 80%, but they don't have to. And if your child really enjoys the language, likes to challenge themselves, go for it if they're eligible. The difference basically is when they do their interpersonals, they'll be expected to have more extended conversations with their peers. They'll be expected to use more complicated sentence structures. In their writing, they're expected to, again, use more complicated sentence structures, more elaboration, do longer. So it's the same type of thing. It's just it goes a little deeper into the language, and a higher proficiency level is developed in the 3 honors class. If your child isn't sure, ask them to speak to their 8th grade Spanish teacher. That's the person who knows their Spanish ability the best, and he or she is in the best position to advise them. Students who came into the district in in 7th grade and took first year of Spanish in 7th grade and second year in 8th grade will go into Spanish 2 at the high school. Now, I will say that from any one of these things, Spanish 2, French 2, German 2, or Chinese 2, you can all get to AP by senior year, if it is your child's choice to do that. You absolutely can do that. The path is marked out for you. If the Spanish, if you're in the 3 honors and you're going forward, you can get to AP Lang and then AP Lit, again, if you choose. So next slide, Dr. McDonald, if you would. What are the exceptions to going into the very next level of your class? Students, as you know, we don't have heritage speaker, we don't have classes for heritage speakers in the middle school. So students take another language. A lot of them choose to continue in that other language. They speak one language at home, they've been learning and enjoying another language in middle school, and they choose to continue. Others may choose to switch into their home language. Most of you, all of you should have gotten a letter from me today saying that if you wish to test into your heritage language and your child did not take that heritage language in middle school, you can sign up to take a test and we will place you at the appropriate level. You don't need to go into 3 or 3 honors. You might go into 4 honors, or, like, we don't know. We'll put your child where they test. So that's for if you are a heritage speaker, and you should have gotten that email from me today offering that opportunity. Students who, for whatever reason, don't want to continue with the language, maybe it wasn't working out well for them, or maybe they came into the district in 8th grade and didn't have an opportunity to take a language, you can begin either Spanish 1 or French 1 as 9th graders. We always offer Chinese 1 and German 1, but we only run it if there's enough of a class to run it, and there almost never is. So count on taking either Spanish 1 or French 1 if you want to switch languages or start a new language in 9th grade. Students can also be placed in a course called Spanish Communication and Culture by the Child Study Team Placement. That's a Child Study Team Placement. So those are the basic tenets of world language. By the time your child is a senior, they can earn the seal of biliteracy. We just had a lot of students take the seal of biliteracy exam, and a lot of them passed it. So we're real excited about that. All right, I am now going to, this is not Sherry Sizemore anymore. I am now Kathy Riley, who is unable to be with us tonight. She is our fabulous language arts supervisor. And I'm going to pull up my notes to make sure I don't forget any of the important points she wanted me to tell you. As 9th graders, your children have the option of either taking Language Arts 1, LA1, or LA1 honors. Those are the 2 choices for your students. Again, if you're eligible for LA1 honors, if you have an 80% or above. They basically, she tells me, they basically have the same content and read a lot of the same texts, but the LA1 may read a more abridged version, whereas the LA1 honors would not. They both do grammar and vocabulary explicitly, as well as incorporated into the text, but the LA1 may be more structured and scaffolded, whereas it's not in the LA1 honors. The other thing she wanted me to be sure and tell you was that there is the Language Arts Department has done a real project in making transition from 8th grade into high school easier and smoother for students. So they've moved some of the more complicated classics towards the end of the year. And they do some other more modern texts first to help the students get acclimated to high school. And I think most of the students really like their language arts classes. The other thing that she's very excited about, the elective that is offered to you in the journalism class, in the language arts department, is journalism, which provides an authentic vehicle for students to use their voices. So if your student likes to write, is into what's happening in the world, and would like a vehicle to make their voice heard, this is something they might really seriously want to consider. So she wanted me also to wish you luck as you embark on this journey in high school. So hopefully I've done her justice. If not, you can always email her at kathy.riley2@ww-p.org. So thank you all. Have a good night.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rich Steck. I'm the District Supervisor of Science. And I have to say, this is typically one of my favorite nights of the whole year. We get to interact with you and speak with you. We're certainly doing that via technology, but it doesn't replace the in-person experiences. But we'll do the best we can. But the second best option here is please reach out with questions after tonight and engage your school counselors, engage us, engage your teachers. We'll make the very most of the school community as it's offered to you. Coming in as a freshman, there are a couple of choices that you have. You typically biology or biology honors. And these are not only science courses in their own right in terms of life science, but they're designed to help students transition to the increased rigor and vigor of what it means to be a scientist at the high school level, to study science as scientists. And what that means really is you're embracing a set of what we call science and engineering practices that surround the content, cross-cutting concepts, scale, proportionate quantity, energy transformations, patterns, and then of course, as I mentioned earlier, the science and engineering practices of asking questions and designing solutions to problems, obtaining, evaluating, communicating information. These are skills that the children have been experiencing throughout their academic career here in WWP. Hence my graphic of the spiraled world, which is an analogous experience of our curriculum. It takes time to become a scientist. It takes time to be able to develop those careful skills that students need to master in order to really be a science student. So that's what we emphasize in addition to content. They have a very rich middle school experience. Our transitional program from 8th grade to 9th grade, our teachers do articulate well together, which means that our middle school teachers are in conversation with our high school teachers. They work across the street, quite frankly, and they have partnered to provide programs that bridge, 8th grade into 9th grade into even a sophomore year when your children are choosing their next set of science courses. I'm also going to ask that you carefully choose the science path with your child. Again, working closely with your child's school counselor and making sure that your child has a chance to really explore their passion for science based on what they want to do with their lives and how they intend to give back to the community. What are they going to look like in 10 years as a science person if they choose to do that? So if they want to major in college in one of the sciences, taking at least 4 years of sciences is pretty much your pathway. That's what I did, and I was very successful at it, and I went on to a great career in the sciences, as many of our graduates do. But also, be mindful of what you wish or what your children wish as well to go into. So for example, if you're thinking about medical technology, medicine, dentistry, taking AP biology and AP chemistry, absolutely important. Taking advanced topics and physics honors, not so much, unless you're considering going into the world of bionics or prosthetics, where a knowledge of engineering and human anatomy, how the body is put together, becomes very crucial. So choosing your science courses becomes very, very strategic and has to align well with what your children want to do. In terms of science options to consider also, the full year experience is second to none. Our teachers are well-trained and are passionate about teaching your children how to be scientists. And you really can't move that too quickly. Here am I going with this? I am not a fan of taking option 2 science courses, only because you really can't duplicate the full year experience. If you want to maximize your child's potential as a scientist, those skills take time. And we will work very hard to make sure your children become the best they can be, take the science of their passion, take the science of their dreams, and chart a bright course where the sky's the limit. And I want to thank you very much for your time. If you have any further questions, I love a great conversation around science education. That's my job, but it's also my passion. I've been doing this for a very long time. So I'm going to surrender this over to the next person, my friend, Mr. Carl Cooper, who's going to talk to you about social studies options. Thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you, Rich. Welcome to our virtual High School North. It's a great school. The teachers and guidance counselors are really wonderful people, and they're going to take care of your child. They're in good hands. So according to the state of New Jersey, high school students need to take 1 year in world history and 2 years of American history. In West Windsor-Plainsboro, we have 9th graders study world history. The course generally focuses on the 17th century to the 20th and 21st century. We'd explore various topics in world history. We also, however, want to try to focus our efforts on developing skills. We would have students develop critical literacy skills. We would focus on constructing an argument and using evidence to substantiate that argument, analyzing the quality of evidence and sources of information. If your child is considering whether or not to take world history or the other course, world history honors, we have the exact same units of study between the two classes. In fact, we have the same essential questions, and various materials are used across both world history and world history honors. What we would see, though, is that at world history honors, we would have slightly greater text complexity. They're going to be more challenging readings, perhaps a little bit longer, a little bit more complex. We'll also have a little bit longer writing expectations, and the quality of work that we would see coming in would have more substantiated evidence and skills demonstrated along the way. If your son or daughter is enrolling in Language Arts 1 honors, World History honors is probably a reasonable course to take. High School North is a great school, and it might be a little bit scary if this is the first time that your child is going to high school, but the people at High School North are going to take care of your child. Thank you very much and have a great night.
Hi, good evening. I'm Andrea Bean. I am the math supervisor for grades 6 through 12, and I'm super excited to be here tonight and talk to you about our math program. As my colleagues have said to you before, High School North is awesome, and I can personally vouch the math teachers here are the best. I know I might have said that last night to the Grover people about the South math teachers, but they're all just wonderful, and they're here to guide your child into some deep thinking and some good learning. They'll be in great hands in high school. For ninth grade, there are a few math options, as you can see on the slide. So let's talk about each one of those a little bit. Algebra 1 is for children who are in Math 8 right now. Algebra 1, a full year Algebra 1 course, is a high school graduation requirement. So if you completed that in 8th grade, you did complete that part of your high school graduation requirement. But if you did not, then you need to take it in high school. We have 3 levels of Algebra 2. So if your child is currently enrolled in Algebra 1 or Algebra 1 honors, there are 3 choices: Algebra 2, Advanced Algebra 2, and Advanced Algebra 2 honors. So if you have a child who is in the Algebra 1 honors course and is currently earning a C or higher, they are eligible for Advanced Algebra 2 honors. I would say please think about that child that has a C, because our grading profile changes in high school. And it's a little more about tests and quizzes, a little bit less about participation. So look where and how that grade was formed. And if you have a question, talk to their math teacher, because their math teacher definitely understands their math ability better than we do right now. If your child's in Algebra 1 and not in the honors course right now, but you would like your child to be in the honors course in high school, I challenge you to talk to the math teacher, because Algebra 1 and Algebra 1 honors are taught simultaneously in the same room at the same time. And we did that in 8th grade to give everybody the same material, the same units. It's just that we assess them differently. So it would be really advantageous for you to see if your child can take the honors tests. So ask the teacher now, can we try a couple of the honors tests? See if it fits, see if they're able to transfer the knowledge from what they're learning in class before you make that choice. If you do not want the honors, Advanced Algebra 2 is a rigorous course. It's Advanced Algebra 2 and students can move on from there. Now, if your child's in Algebra 1 and they have a C or lower, for whatever reason, their experiences just haven't been so great. It is a pandemic and we know that. We offer Algebra 2. Algebra 2 covers all the same algebra material, but we do it in a bit smaller class setting. So we try to keep the Algebra 2 classes a little smaller for a little more intervention for our students that need some more varied experiences with the algebra. The good news is whether you're in Algebra 2 or Advanced Algebra 2, you go to the same geometry course. So Algebra 2 isn't really a different sequence. It's just kind of a sideways step for intervention in their 9th grade year, just to make sure that their algebra skills are there. If your child's in Algebra 2, H&A, they've obviously took their Algebra 2 course this year, so they would move into Geometry, Honors, and Accelerated. I'd like to show you our math sequence on the next slide so that you have an idea of what each sequence looks like. And I show you this progression because if you look at the bottom at grade 12, no matter what sequence your child's in right now, they can have access to a calculus class in their senior year, if that's their choice. And I say this because you don't need to take a summer course to have a calculus course during your high school career. I think that's a bit of a misconception. So I know Mr. Steck already brought up option 2, but I'm going to bring it up again. Option 2 is an option where you can take a summer course. If you take that summer course, you just want to be really careful what message that sends on your transcript, because if you take that summer course to skip a course in the sequence, some schools may look at that, instead of showing a passion for learning, it might just show a passion for achievement. And that might not be the message that you want to send. So just a thought, you could use your summer course, your option 2 option, to take a course that's not on that list, that we don't offer. Discrete math, a linear algebra, that I think would send the message of passion and learning and desire to really deeply study mathematics. However, if you're very dedicated to this whole idea of I want to take a summer course that's in the sequence, you always take the course that's next in the sequence for your child. So those of you that have children in Algebra 1 course, the summer course between 8th and 9th grade would be one of the Algebra 2 courses that they would be enrolled in 9th grade. I'm going to say that I think it's a not good idea. I'm going to say terrible idea to take an Algebra 2 course in the summer between 8th and 9th grade. Fluency with algebra is your #1 indicator of success later in mathematics. And by taking half of your algebra learning and squishing it into 8 weeks, it does impact the fluency. The SAT about 6-7 years ago switched so that 2/3 of the SAT is what they call the heart of algebra, because it's the predictor of success. So if you do take a summer course and you do want to skip through your sequence, which again is not recommended and it's not mandatory, please wait till the summer between 9th and 10th grade and take the geometry course. Again, we have a rigorous math program. There's no need to add to it unless you want to show your passion and study something that we do not offer. Our teachers are here to support your child all the way through their math learning journey, and I'm here to help you too. So if you have questions about your child's math placement, the best thing you can do is talk to their math teacher who diagnoses their math ability every single day that they're in class. Have a good time, have good luck next year. We're excited to have you coming aboard, and I know you'll be happy at High School North. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Santoro. I'm the supervisor of Fine and Performing Arts. I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes about our offerings in music, art, and theater. I can start by telling you that you've heard this before from some other of my colleagues, but your children will be in very good hands in our arts program at the high school, at High School North. We have passionate, dedicated educators who, especially in this strange year, have really found a way to connect with kids and expand their understanding of what it means to be a musician and an artist and an actor. So statistically, more than 50% of your children are in our arts program at the middle school level. So I'm going to frame everything through the lens of the next progression that you would want to take as you move from 8th grade to 9th grade. So for the students who are in the music program, we have 9th grade equivalent courses that are the perfect sequence for the 8th grade equivalent courses that your children are in now. The nice thing about the way we sequence our music program is we have a cohort of students who get to, for the most part, be together with their grade level colleagues from sometimes 3rd grade all the way through 9th. It's not until 10th, 11th, and 12th where they might split off into different ensembles. So for the students who are in the 8th grade band, they would transition right into concert band. The students who are in 8th grade chorus or choir would transition into chorale, and the students in 8th grade orchestra would transition to string ensemble. Those are the corresponding ensembles at the high school level. For students who are not in our performing ensembles right now, but still have an interest in music, we do offer 2 other courses at the high school level that are available to 9th graders, and that is music theory and music technology. Music technology is a newer course. This is the 3rd year we're running it. It's a really exciting opportunity for students to make music using computers. So if you have a child at home who likes to make their own music, and especially if they're into using programs like GarageBand or some of the more advanced digital audio workstation software, that's a perfect course for them. On the art side of things, we have 2 courses, Art Foundation and Computer Art and Design. If your child took elective art in middle school, or every child took the cycle art program, Art Foundation is sort of the high school equivalent of that kind of a class. It's a survey course. It covers many different types of art making, everything from drawing to painting to a little bit of 3D ceramics. And it's meant to give students an overview of the different mediums of art that are out there so that they can make an informed choice in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade should they want to continue in the art program. It's a great place for students interested in art to sort of get their feet wet at the high school level. Computer art and design does the exact same thing. It's just a little bit more limited in the sense that the art you're creating is on the computer. So if you're familiar with programs like Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, those are primarily what we use in that class for students to make art on the computer. If you've ever come to our art shows that we hold each year, you've probably seen some of the computer art and design work hanging, and it's remarkable what they're able to do. And last but certainly not least, we have another course that's relatively new, been running for a few years, and that's called Theater Arts. And it's really a great class for every kid. It's the kind of course where it will really help students find their inner voice, be comfortable speaking in front of a crowd. It's not a public speaking course, but there's certainly a public speaking benefit to studying theater. And for those of you who have children who were in middle school musical or play or have an interest in being in the high school productions, that's a great class for them to take to really work on those skills and become better actors and have a stage presence that can help them no matter what they end up doing in life. So that's just a real quick overview of what we have to offer. Like I said, your children will be in good hands with our arts staff at the high school. And if you have any further questions, feel free to put them in the chat or reach out to me via email. I'd be happy to answer them. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you, Mr. Santoro. Back to me. Dr. Ray, our supervisor, 21st Century Life Skills, is not able to join us this evening, but I'm going to just give you a minute. Let me move this out of the way. Parents, if you have your cell phone handy and want to scan that box there, the QR code, if you will, that will take you to an amazing website that Dr. Ray and his team have put together that outlines each of these 21st century area life skills that you see on your screen here. It's not too many places that have a multi-year sequence when it comes to computer science and engineering. These courses have come online in the last couple of years, have been extremely popular with our students, very hands-on learning, covering obviously a lot of different topics. and you think about the newer courses, especially with digital communications, bringing that into the 21st century with regards to how communication is had, whether that's social media, whether that's through other mediums and whatnot. The robotic engineering is also another course that's fairly new that will allow students to progress in their engineering skills and really have a hands-on learning experience. Family and consumer science is also another area that students can explore. The culinary arts and creative design, child growth and development covers a lot of different areas. Hopefully by now you're able to pull up and look at your cell phone and see the website 21st Century Life and Careers that goes through each one of those areas. We have some phenomenal business courses when it comes to accounting and marketing. And then of course our media area as well, TV production, broadcast writing, journalism. So all of these courses are courses that can go toward that 21st century life skills requirement. But again, I encourage you to scan the QR code here to find out more about that. You certainly get a lot more detail than I'm going to be able to cover here. So I know we have some questions coming in on the chat. We will address as many of those questions as we can at the end of this presentation before our counselors come online. They are also going to answer a lot of questions just about process and course request and other topics related to the program of studies. I want to mention real quick to the Avid program. If you're not familiar with Avid, this is a program that we started last year, our first cohort. Avid stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. Really what this does, besides what's listed here on your screen, is provide those supports for a student that may not necessarily currently be on that college-bound path, whether that's a 2 or 4 year institution. There's supplemental supports and structures that will allow a student to grow over their high school career. Whether that's getting exposure to colleges, whether that's working on writing skills, organizational skills, study skills, mentoring in and out of school. So there's a lot of different things that the Avid program provides. Naturally, there is an application process. There's a screening process that we look at in terms of making sure that we have candidates that fit that bill. And if you think of a student that may not necessarily be getting that push to be college bound, that is really looking at somebody that might be a first generation college student, a group that's underrepresented in college. So these are some different types of criteria that we look at. We'll make sure that you get that information in terms of the application process and what that looks like, and make sure that you can access that information and ask questions. Our 8th grade counselors, in this case, Ms. Burgess, is also familiar with this program, Ms. Shabinsky at the middle school level as well. Going to turn it over to Ms. Dobinson, our athletic director, talk a little bit about health and physical education and athletics.
Welcome everybody tonight. It's great to see everybody here in a virtual setting. Very quickly about health and PE, your child is going to be following the sequence throughout their whole entire high school career. So they start off with 3/4 of physical education and 1/4 of health education. And in freshman year, we look at the human body, relationships, conflict resolution, and then throughout their career of health education, we touch on substance abuse, mental health. And then in sophomore year, they have the fun of going through driver's ed and they get ready to get their driver's permit and eventually their license. Our physical education program really looks at the whole body. It looks at, developing skills for a healthy lifestyle, teaching our students how to become fit and lifelong movers. We do have traditional team sports, and a lot of those offerings are going to be done within the freshman year to teach about teamwork and being a good sport. And then as they move through sophomore year, they're going to be participating in Project Adventure and the ropes courses and Challenge by Choice. Our juniors and seniors are looking at more lifetime fitness. They're going to be doing badminton, archery, dance. We do a weightlifting unit. We do yoga. So we have all of those different things that can promote and teach them about maintaining a level of fitness after graduation. So there's wonderful offerings that we have. The health and PE staff over at High School North is top notch, and they're really going to be having all of those different offerings that your student can get involved in. Within athletics, and Lee, if you would just be able to slide us over. So our athletic offerings, we run a fall, winter, and spring athletic program. Registration will typically begin in the fall for the fall sports in end of May. For fall sports, we run cross country, cheerleading, football, field hockey, boys and girls soccer, girls tennis, and girls volleyball. So there's a lot of different offerings there. Our winter sports, the registration is going to be opening up in the end of September, and it will run through the end of October. We've got boys and girls basketball, cheerleading, diving, ice hockey, fencing, swimming, wrestling, as well as winter track. And then lastly, we end up the year with our spring sports, and registration will be opening up in the end of January. We've got baseball, softball, boys and girls golf, boys and girls lacrosse, boys tennis, boys volleyball, and spring track. So there's a lot of different ways that your student can get involved within our athletic programs and become, fit not only within the classroom, but also outside the classroom, and really develop those lifelong skills that athletics can teach them. If you have any questions for me regarding athletics or health and PE, feel free to email me. The other way you can kind of follow us is on the athletic department's Twitter page and the athletic website. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Albinson. Along those lines, want to just highlight a few enrichment programs. As you can imagine, your students have a lot of opportunities when it comes to their high school experience to supplement their academic learning in the classroom. That learning extends well beyond the classroom. When you take a look at the list of offerings here, typically in the fall, there's a club fest that gives students the opportunities to sign up for things that they're interested in. Doesn't mean they have to sign up at that moment, but it gives them that exposure. Whether they're into the math league or creative writing or Model UN or journalism, they can find something for them. And that's really important as they start their high school experience. Not that we want them to sign up for 5 or 6 clubs, but we want them to find a way to get connected with the school, whether that's through athletics, as Ms. Dobinson mentioned, or whether that's through some sort of club or after school activity. Again, hopefully all of these programs will be able to run in a more in-person setting in the coming year. We're optimistic about that, but we'll only, of course, do that if we're able to keep people safe. So option 2 was mentioned previously by a few of our supervisors. The purpose of option 2 is plain and simple. It's about creating alternative pathways for students. So what I mean by that, it's not just about taking a course that we offer as a district. That's really not the purpose. Some students choose to do that. It's not necessarily advisable for reasons that were previously discussed. But if, for example, there's a course that we do not offer, I'll use science, I'll use marine biology, for example. Your son or daughter has an interest in marine biology. Guess what? Great. We want them to be able to pursue that passion of theirs. They can take that course outside of the district, assuming it's pre-approved by the district, and then be able to apply that credit back to their transcript in district. So that's really the purpose when it comes to option 2. That being said, you really have to make sure that you understand that there are very specific guidelines. As of February 1st, the option 2 application opened up on the district website. Again, that's going to be under departments, counseling, high school counseling. Once you get into the high school counseling section, you'll be able to find a link for the option 2 website. There is an application. You have to apply for a course and get that course approved by the district before you enroll in that course. It's really critical. The deadline is May 1st. There are no exceptions to that deadline. We do plan to assess students come August, as we've done other than this past year, but that is our plan right now. And what that means is that your son or daughter, once they're completed their 8-week experience or so, they will have to be assessed by the district and have to earn a C or better. And that's really important that they understand that going into this experience, because if for some reason they take a course and they pass a course with a C or better outside of our school, they come back and don't earn at least a C on our exam, that course essentially becomes an enrichment experience. So it's one of those buyer beware type of things that just make sure that you've done your homework, you've done your research, you've looked at the statistics related to option 2, which are also posted on the district website. As you can see, some of these stats, plain and simple aren't pretty. We have some times where students take courses outside of the district, they come back, fail our assessment, as I just mentioned, and that course becomes an enrichment experience. The biggest reason why you might want to know is you think about what some of our supervisors mentioned a second ago. You're taking a full year experience of learning and putting that into an 8-week or so. That's a lot of compacting, and truth be told, there's gaps. So not to mention that if you're taking a course outside of the district, it may not necessarily align to the curriculum and scope and sequence for West Windsor-Plainsboro. So that's something you have to make sure that you're careful when you do choose to go that route. Again, though, my personal opinion, your kids are going to have a great experience over the 4 years. They're going to have the opportunity to have plenty of rigor over their 4-year experience. Ideally to us, they up that rigor a little bit every year over that 4-year experience. They don't need, plain and simple, to go out and supplement that. They don't need to accrue additional coursework, right? I'll do the quick 4-year snapshot down the road. You're applying to college admissions. You don't have to, it's not that student that takes that extra honors or AP course that gets you into a school, right? It's a student that has a variety of experiences that is a good fit for that particular college or university. So happy to talk about that offline, as I know our supervisors are as well, but wanted to make sure that we covered that with you. This last slide is just, these are some tips that our school counselors shared with our students yesterday. And I think they're pretty spot on when you think about what we've been saying tonight, selecting a balanced course load. It's not just about the academic piece. What are your extracurriculars, athletics, clubs, sports? What are your outside of school commitments? You want to make sure that you're taking into consideration. Just because a student's eligible for 5 honors course doesn't mean that they should take 5 honors courses, right? And you're not going to be penalized if you're eligible for one and all of a sudden you decide, hey, I'm going to take 1 or 2 this year, do really well, build that confidence, find my passion, and then maybe up the rigor as I climb the ladder, so to speak. Self-care, I think it goes without saying, especially now during times of COVID, this is extremely important. If a student is overwhelmed, they've got too much on their plate, guess what? They're not going to be able to take care of themselves. They're not going to get enough sleep. They're going to be overcommitted. That's not a good recipe. So the time management component is certainly critical, thinking about short and long-term goals. Being active outside the classroom, I mentioned the engagement piece is really critical. All of these other things here, sometimes we have to say no, right? We know that as adults, but children need our guidance sometimes in understanding that. So having that support network, working through this process with their teachers, their counselors, their administration, you certainly, that's going to be really critical in their success over the next 4 years. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I know there's a lot of chat questions. We will certainly do our best to try to answer some of these questions here. We're certainly not going to be able to get to all of them, but any sort of general questions we want to try to answer. Supervisors, please jump in if you see anything here that you'd like to answer. So I believe, and this is Mr. Riley, our lead counselor at High School North. I think some of these questions have been answered in the chat, if I'm not mistaken, but.
We've been going at them.
Okay, excellent, great. Well, that's good. Anything else in the chat that we want to try to answer while I have our supervisor team on?
I think the supervisors have been doing a great job just kind of jumping in as we've been going along.
Excellent.
So
All
it's
right.
been enjoyable just to watch the chat. I'm learning a lot.
All right, I might get to bed early tonight. So, all right. Well, look, that being said, I'm sure there are other questions that come up. I want to thank our supervisory team and Dr. Dauber for their time this evening. And as I mentioned before, this is being recorded, so we're going to post this on the district website, YouTube channel. It'll be in that program of studies folder for you to take a look at. But that was just the first exciting segment of our presentation tonight. So with that said, I'm going to sign off on our supervisors, thank them very much for their time, for being here. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Riley, who's our lead counselor at High School North. We're going to introduce our school counseling team and try to answer some frequently asked questions for all of you. So
Good night, all. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. McDonald.
If you have any questions, we love a good conversation.
thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, supervisors. It's a pleasure to listen to everybody and and meet with everybody. It's nice to be wearing a tie. I know usually I don't wear a tie, so I'm just getting dressed up, and that should tell you about how excited I am to meet everyone. My name's Lee Riley, and I'm one of the counselors here at High School North. Honored to be joined by all of my colleagues from our department. And we're, like the rest of the crew at High School North, really excited to get this journey started with our rising ninth grade students. As was mentioned before, all the kids had an opportunity to meet with us yesterday during their flex period at CMS. We've already let them know what their alphabetical assignment is, and our plan is usually to follow the kids through all 4 years of high school. So the counselor that they are initially assigned at this point will remain with them throughout their high school journey. And that's so that you and they have an opportunity to develop a relationship with us and have a kind of steady guiding hand and support in their academic and personal lives as they go through the high school. We fielded a lot of great questions from the kids yesterday. We gave them some good information. We talked about formal scheduling things and then more informal transition to high school issues. And I'm sure it was probably a little bit overwhelming. And we expect that you're having to absorb a lot of information and that can be a little bit overwhelming as well. But when it comes to course selection for ninth grade, you do have plenty of time to discuss options with your kids, as well as your eighth grade teachers, as well as the supervisors even on the call tonight before we meet with the kids. I wanted to give one slight date change. We are right now scheduled to meet with the students during the week of March 15th. So we will be having one-on-one virtual meetings for the first 4 days of that week, probably meeting with the kids during their science classes. Those will be strictly counselor-student meetings. So you will not be involved in that particular conversation, but certainly we will assume that you have had conversations with your sons or daughters prior to that meeting. And you will have a chance after that meeting to review with them what we discussed and make any final adjustments to course selections prior to March 26th. So basically you have the next 5 weeks to do your due diligence and really think about some of the things that have been said tonight in terms of honors versus non-honors, elective choices, and things like that. And by the time we get to meet them in March, during the 15th of March and that week, they can ask us any questions that they might still be having when it comes to course selection. What we told the kids yesterday and what you've heard a little bit tonight is the transition to high school is certainly challenging from a social perspective and from an academic perspective. There are a lot of doors open to them in terms of increases in course rigor. And we want the kids to challenge themselves, but we don't want them to be overly challenged or hampered in any way so that academic struggles interfere with the rest of that transition and the social networking that they end up doing and the involvement that is such a key to becoming a part of the fabric of high school life. So when you're thinking about the courses selection with your sons and daughters, please think about the schedule in totality and not just subject by subject. It's always a good idea that if you're going to really take on a challenge in one area and maybe take an honors course, to maybe pull back a little bit in another area. What we'd like to do tonight, because we're certain you've got a lot of questions, is I'm just going to have each counselor talk about a frequently asked question that they have fielded from parents and students in years past, and kind of how we like to answer those questions. While that's going on, I'll try to monitor the chat and see if anything else comes in that maybe we haven't covered. But each counselor will introduce themselves, the part of the alphabet that they'll be assigned next year, and a common question that we think are that the kids and possibly you are wondering about. So with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Ms. Niru Narang. You can unmute yourself, Mrs. Narang, we're ready.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Riley. Hi, everyone. My name is Niru Narang, and I'm one of the counselors. We are very excited to have you here tonight and look forward to working with your kids in September. The first question I'm going to address is, Should students take all courses they are eligible to take? The answer is absolutely not. The transition from middle school to high school is a huge jump, and it's a process that takes time. If a student is eligible to take all honors courses, it doesn't mean they should sign up for all honors. Honors courses follow a rigorous curriculum at a faster pace that is designed to ensure that a student is ready for independent college level work. These courses are appropriate for very independent students who are self-motivated and ready to move quickly with the pace and expectations of the class. Honors level courses demand much more work than college prep courses and require a strong mastery of skills and more critical thinking. Assignments in these classes are given on a longer-term basis, demanding more self-discipline. You know how much your students have been spending on homework every night this year. In the fall, it's going to be a considerable amount of time for each honors class they sign up for. Our recommendation as counselors for students who are eligible is to sign up for no more than a couple of honors classes so they can get used to the workload and they can gradually ramp up if they feel they have the ability to handle it. We want to set them up for success, and success looks different for each kid. The goal is to have challenging classes, but without them feeling overwhelmed or not getting enough sleep. It can be very difficult. The reason I mentioned this is because sometimes we do see students struggle when they enroll in classes that they aren't ready for. And then their enthusiasm for learning can dwindle and it can start impacting their performance in other classes. It impacts them not only academically, but also socially and emotionally. Another question related to eligibility that often comes up is if a student doesn't take an honors level course during their freshman year, can they still take honors courses during sophomore year? The first thing is absolutely they can. It depends on how well they do first semester of 9th grade and if they meet the honors course criteria and they have the option to sign up for it. The good thing about going from college prep to honors level class is that it will show growth on their transcript, which is what colleges like to see. And the second thing about this is if a student is eligible for an honors math or honors world language class, and if they decide not to choose the honors course for their freshman year, it may impact their 4-year track in that subject area. So it's a conversation to have with their current teacher and counselor, and we will absolutely discuss it when we schedule them in March. Please do refer to the program of studies and have a discussion at home. What will be best for your kids? Balance is key. Thank you.
Okay, I think it's my turn. My name is Teresa Riley, and I have the very top of the alphabet. My students' last names are going to start with A, and I'm going to go through BO this year. And I'm excited. I'm looking forward to meeting you guys and your kids. I want to talk about a lot of our students, current and our rising 8th grade, our rising 9th grade class, are wondering if they're going to be able to change their classes. I know this is a daunting time where they're trying to figure out what classes to take, and they can't even, they don't even have what High School North may even look like inside in their heads, and they're trying to figure out what classes they're going to be successful in and which ones are best for them. So we know that's a tough decision, which is why we're giving them plenty of time. We're not going to come and schedule them until, like Mr. Riley said, the week of March 15th. So they still have lots of time to have those conversations with you guys at home and kind of work through the classes that are best for them. We'll sit down and we'll schedule them. We'll go through the courses that they have put into Genesis. We will confirm them at that time. They will still have until spring break. They'll have until March 26th to make any changes. If they do want to make a change between the time they meet with us and spring break, they need to contact Mrs. Burgess. They need to send those changes through her, and then she'll let us know, and we'll go ahead and take care of that on our end. Classes will stay the same. Schedule's going to stay set. Sometime in August, as in the past, we will open up for a couple weeks for schedule changes. However, those requests are only going to be honored based on class availability, course availability, spots in the classes. At that point, the master schedule will have been created and implemented, and it's just going to be about if there's room in the class and if your child is eligible for that class. Sometimes they're not eligible this semester, they become eligible later, they want to make a change over the summer. We do our best at that point, but again, we can't guarantee those changes the way we can right now. Then again, moving into September, we ask that the kids go through a couple classes, about maybe 2 weeks. So 2 rotations of classes, and then they can start to make requests to change levels at that point. But those requests are few and far between. We really want the kids to stay in their courses and to really experience the course that they're in, of course, unless they're really struggling. So those requests are honored on a case-by-case basis with a hard deadline of September 30th. So to wrap that up, we really want the kids to come into the appointments with us knowing what they want to take. They may have an opportunity to make a change if possible in August, and hopefully they come into High School North in September, loving their classes, loving their schedule, and enjoy their freshman year.
Hello, everybody. My name is Melissa Demuth. I'm truly looking forward to working with the incoming 9th grade class of students whose last name begins with the letters D through A2A. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the supports available to the 9th grade students during their first year and help them acclimate to 9th grade. Of course, their counselors are a resource who are always here to help them in working with them and supporting them, whether it be academic, social, emotional, in any of those realms. Counselors are a great resource for the students. We also have a lot of a great team of people through our administrators, our nurses, our student assistance counselors that will be able to support them and are great resources in the building. Some more formal programs that we have in place for the students as they come into the high school. We have freshman orientation, which is a great opportunity for students to get to learn a bit more about the school. The date of that is yet to be announced, but typically that occurs in August before students will be entering the building in the fall. And we also have freshman year groups where we meet with students to check in with them, process their experiences, and just talk about how they are adjusting to high school life. In addition to that, we have peer leader groups where our peer leaders, who are student ambassadors that work with new students in the school. We actually had different peer leaders with us yesterday on our calls with the students, which was great. So they could see some faces and get to know some of the peer leaders that we have in the high school. But the peer leaders do run groups as well, typically in study halls, smaller groups with the 9th grade students, similarly to discuss how they're adjusting to high school and, questions, concerns, things they just want to talk about. And in addition to that, we have a variety of tutoring services available to the students to address any concerns academically or organizational needs. So there are a variety of those resources as well. So overall, we really look forward to meeting your children and working with the students next year. There's a lot of resources in place to help them adjust and look forward to an exciting year with them.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Godowski. I am one of the school counselors at North. Next year, I'll be working with students with the last name HUB through KOH. I'm very excited to get to know you and your students further in this process. One of the questions that we get frequently is study hall mandatory for all students? And the answer is yes. So as my colleagues have mentioned before, this time is very useful for a variety of options. One, the peer leaders will meet with their students, their freshmen in this block. Also, it's an option for students to connect with us, another support system. It's also a time for them to connect with teachers if their teachers' prep period aligns and they are able to meet with them. It is also time that can be used to go to the library or, more importantly, connect with their friends. There's a lot going on during the day, and face-to-face time with peers is something that I know all my students value. So that's another great resource for that. If your student's participating in a music or choir class, then there's also music labs. So with that, I look forward to working with you in the future, and have a great night.
Hi, everyone. Mr. Becker here. I will be working with students with the last name KOI to M. Really looking forward to your sons and daughters coming to the high school next year. High school is a great experience. We often get the question, is there a volunteer service requirement at High School North? And the answer to that is no, it's not mandatory. However, we do want our students to be busy and active outside the classroom. I think it's been mentioned many times tonight about choosing classes and having the best fit so that your son or daughter is challenged, but also earning great grades, which is going to go on their transcript. At the same time, we want them to be active. And there are a ton of opportunities at High School North. Yesterday, we had our peer leaders talk about a whole bunch of opportunities for them to take advantage of. It really, really is a good thing to enrich the high school experience. We have athletics. Ms. Dobinson had already talked about athletics. We have 3 seasons, the fall, the spring, or excuse me, fall, winter, and spring. Every freshman is eligible to play right off the bat with credits. So they come in with a clean slate. If your son or daughter is interested in a fall sport, I highly encourage it because they get started in the middle of August. It is a commitment. It's a 6-day commitment, Monday to Saturday. I think there was a question earlier in the chat. So there is a commitment there. But if they start in the fall, in August, it's a great way to get acclimated to high school and meet friends and start their 9th grade off on a great start. The other thing that we have is we have so many clubs and service organizations. I'm just going to see if I'm going to share a screen here. Can I share a screen here, Dr. McDonald? Can we share a screen?
I think you can. If you hit
It says disabled.
You're throwing us curveballs here, Mr. Becker.
That's okay. I wanted to show a club list, and maybe someone could post
There you
it.
go. You're a co-host. Although I
Okay.
will tell you the district website might still be down, so I'm not sure if it's posted there. But
District website is down.
What is it sharing? Can you see it?
yes.
Okay. So on there, you could see the club list, and there are a lot of opportunities. Some are student run. We have advisors that are teachers. You can see that they're the club name to the left and all the descriptions to the right. All the counselors this year certainly encourage this. I can go on. I don't want to make you dizzy, but if you keep on going, you can see we're going all the way into there's tremendous opportunities. I think there's up to almost like 70, 80 different opportunities that they can take advantage of. So we do encourage it. It really adds to the high school experience. And in September, we do have a fair. And if we are in the building, it is during lunchtime. If not, we will do it virtually. And there was a question earlier with a parent that said, do you need a recommendation to get into a club? And the answer to that is no. It's an open club. And we truly encourage students to reach out to the advisors and certainly attend their first meeting and see if that's something that they want to do. I will say that if they want to go into a club, you think of 2 words. One is commitment and consistency. So we want them to get involved. It's a passion of theirs and stay throughout that club rather than picking 6 or 7 different clubs and trying to be active with that. And they think it's going to be great on their resume for college someday. So pick the few that you like and go for it. So in a nutshell, the real deal is, yes, you want the best fit for your courses, but you also want to be productive outside the classroom and take advantage of clubs, sports, and activities. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Maria Pyle, and I'm really excited to work with all of you and your children over the next 4 years at High School North. So I'll be working with students with the last name N through RE. You'll all learn your alphabet this evening. So I'm going to work on a question with all of you about electives. And we often get the question, are all of the electives in the program of study available to 9th graders? And the short answer is no, they're not all available. And I encourage you to use the vetted list that's been provided to you in the class of 2025 scheduling booklet that Ms. Burgess has sent out, that you've been provided with from your counselors, because that's going to provide you with just that vetted list of electives, which is extensive. Ninth graders have so many things that they can choose from that highlight their vast interests. It is important, and we talked to your students yesterday when we met with them about electives and the importance of how they select what it is that they want to fill their schedule with. And so one thing to keep in mind is that some electives do have prerequisites as you move forward in high school. So if one of your children is really into art and they do see themselves maybe moving forward in our art program, that in order to advance in the art program, you have to take Art Foundation. It's a prerequisite course in order to get into the higher level art classes. So it is helpful to review the full program of study so that you can see the electives that do build on each other. Similarly with the computer science program, as students want to progress in that track, you do need to fulfill some prerequisite electives that are available to ninth grade students. We have varying levels of broadcast writing. If students are super interested in production and TV and radio, we have advanced levels of that once they fulfill that prerequisite in ninth grade. So it's really something to be thoughtful about for your child, to read over the descriptions, to watch those videos in the SMORE, and to use the electives, not necessarily to say, I have to pick the thing I want to do in college, but to explore varying interests and to try things out. This is the time to do that. That's what high school is about. It's not to do the thing you want to do in college. High school is about exploration, and that's what your electives are for. It's the reason why we schedule kids over the 4 years for more than they need to graduate, because we want children to have time and opportunity to try everything on. So I urge you again to look at that vetted list that's in the class of 2025 program, and then know that things will continue to open up for them as they move forward.
Hi all, good evening. My name is Kavita James, and the letters I will be working with next year, those students who have their last name, RI to ST. So it's RI to ST. All my colleagues have spoken very eloquently about all the various important topics, and I have a very easy question that I'm going to handle really quickly. So the question is, should I contact the 8th grade counselor if I have questions about the high school? And the one-word answer is yes, that is correct. So essentially, the high school counselors will start working with your sons and daughters summertime. Till then, till the end of June, it will be their 8th grade counselor that they will be working with. All of us counselors are 10-month employees. But all of us are also good about checking our emails during the summer. So though not very often, intermittently, we will all be checking our emails. So if you have questions about any, anything to do with high school, please do send it our way once summertime is here. The other thing I want to say is we are going to be meeting with your sons and daughters mid-March for scheduling. I think it was already mentioned. After that one-on-one meeting, if they have additional questions, they are most welcome to contact their counselor, who is Miss Burgess. As I said, we take over in the summertime. And the other thing I want to mention, the last but not the least, is if you have any content-specific questions, please do contact our content-specific supervisors, whom you just met. You met all of them just a few minutes ago. So please do send those questions their way, especially if it's over the summer. I also want to just mention, I met most of my rising ninth graders yesterday via Zoom. I know all of us did. They are a lovely bunch. Most of them were on camera. It was really, really nice seeing them. So I'm really looking forward to working with all of them and really excited about it. Thank you and have a great night.
Thanks, Mrs. James. A special shout out to Mrs. Thomas for pointing out to me that when I'm answering questions diligently, that parents can't see the questions that I'm answering, just my responses. So I understand that my questions might make sense, all the sense in the world to the people that have asked them, but not necessarily my responses. I know these are some of the common questions that we've talked about. And if you, I really wish the website was online tonight, because a lot of the information that we've gone over can be found on the website. What I was thinking over and over as I was going through some of the questions is the program of studies is a wonderful resource. So when the website is up and running, and I assume it will be in an hour or certainly tomorrow morning, there is a tab for counseling and then high school counseling. You can find the link to our program of studies, which features all of our grading strategies and course content, option 2 information, really anything related to high school scheduling can be found in that program of studies. Additionally, your sons and daughters also were provided with a packet that's a little bit more of a pared down version of the program of studies, just for 9th graders. So between our program of studies for all of high school for 2021-22 and the packet that the kids have access to through Mrs. Burgess's Google Classroom, that should be able to answer a lot of those questions. The supervisors, when they talked about reaching out to them if you have specific content related questions, they are very serious about that. Mr. Steck can talk about science all day long. Mrs. Bean, there isn't a math question that she hasn't heard. Most of us on the call today are parents as well, and we are either looking forward to or remembering that 8th grade to 9th grade transition. So we understand that this is a very exciting and nerve-wracking few months in your lives. But again, this process will go slowly, and you're going to have a lot of opportunity along the way to make informed decisions. Again, over the next 6 weeks, almost 6 weeks, you will have a chance to talk to your sons and daughters and their 8th grade teachers about choices for 9th grade. And by the time we meet with the kids in mid-March, hopefully they'll have a good idea of kind of what direction they're going in. I do want to say that we will offer most likely one more opportunity for you to make a last-minute course change during the month of August. Over the past several years, between August 1st and 15th, we have sent out a Google Doc to students and parents with a course change request title. And that doesn't guarantee that students will be able to submit and be granted a course change request, because of course, by the month of August, we've already built the master schedule for the high school. But I want to let you know that, because if you are really conflicted and you're not sure about a certain elective choice or an honors versus non-honors choice at this point in March, and things really change significantly by the month of August, we will again offer another opportunity in August to make last minute changes if possible. So we're here to make sure that that 9th grade year is successful as possible. And again, when we look at the trajectory of high school in terms of course rigor, it is certainly okay for students to start out a little bit more on the conservative side. There's so much going on during 9th grade year and adapting to high school. We want them to be very successful programmatically, and then as they get more involved and we transition to sophomore year, then they can really get a good idea of what would be appropriate in terms of their course selection. So again, we're really looking forward to meeting with them. We appreciate you're attending our program tonight, and we love that you're having the ability to meet the kids yesterday. So we will circle back with them in about 5 or 6 weeks. And before you know it, we will be getting ready for school in September. We will see the kids again one more time right before we start school. The first day of school, we will have a transition to high school meeting or program. Hopefully that will be in person with the kids. So this will be a high school orientation where they get to walk around the building, meet the counselors, hopefully face to face, and really hit the ground running. And so that's going to be at the end of the summer as well. So I'll turn it back over to Dr. McDonald with any last thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Riley. Thank you to all of our school counselors for being here. As I said before, it is National School Counseling Week, so thank you very much. I very much appreciate you guys being here with us this evening, and Dr. Dauber staying online. A couple more questions just came up in the chat. Transportation for after school, that's always something that we make available. There is a link when our district website is back up and running. You can actually go on and see the rotating drop schedule on the High School North page. So I know that that's a little bit of an adjustment, but kids get used to it pretty quickly. So with that said, please reach out if you have individual questions about this evening's presentation. We'll get this up on the district website in that program of studies folder I mentioned earlier, also on our district YouTube page to view at your leisure. So again, have a great night. Please be well and stay safe. Thank you very much.